Today, I would like to talk about 5 ways how narcissists try to upstage you. If you are not familiar with the term upstaging, it comes from the world of film and theater. And upstaging usually happens when at least 2 actors in a scene try to outshine each other. They basically compete for the audience's attention and the spotlight. And you as the audience may even feel that it's somewhat awkward when it happens. It feels like they are simply doing too much to command the space. Sometimes they are even overacting. They are getting too loud. Or it's in a way they position themselves in a scene. You can really sense the competition in that. And you may notice it happening especially when there's a big ensemble of well-known actors and nobody wants to stand in the shadow of the other famous person. I think I've seen it in movies like A Few Good Men, especially in those court scenes when all these younger actors at the time wanted to shine in front of Jack Nicholson. But before I digress into the creative realms of my world, let's move on and stay on topic. So how do narcissists try to upstage you in the real world and our day-to-day life? I think you'll most likely observe this type of behavior at your workplace. Narcissists always try to outshine you and can't stand being in anybody else's shadow. Even if you have more life or work experience than them, they find ways to make you appear incompetent or even make you question your own abilities. What they simply try to achieve is that you realize you are less important than them, which of course isn't true. And worst case scenario, they may even make others believe it too. Narcissists love to triangulate and set people against each other. So if you suddenly feel excluded or like the outsider in your company, or maybe in your family or circle of friends without having done anything, trust and believe that somebody else had their fingers in that. First of all, the easiest way to upstage and take the attention away from you is to simply hijack a conversation. Quite often, they will also counter your ideas in meetings, for instance, by constantly interrupting or talking over what you have to say. Maybe they will ask a provocative question that they know you have no answer for. As I said, they try to make you look incompetent in front of others. Many of these narcissists are workaholics, which can be a defense mechanism stemming from their insecurities. Whether they achieve their professional goals with manipulations like these or in an honest way and through hard work is up to them. And of course, how receptive the environment is to their manipulations. Not all narcissists are manipulative that way. But if you notice these signs, I think it's clear as day you're dealing with a toxic person that you will need to learn to navigate around or avoid at all costs, whether that's at your workplace or in any other situation. What you don't want to do is to provoke them back and start playing these tit-for-tat kind of games. It will trigger a narcissist's insecurities even more to compete with you and makes them only so much worse to deal with. And believe it or not, some of them may even be out to kill or hurt you to get you out of their way. I'm speaking in particular of the malignant type of a narcissist here, or sociopath/psychopath for that matter. You gotta be really careful, especially at the workplace, because work means a lot of things for them, like money, power, and control. And the higher they can climb the ladder, the more money, power, and control they will have. They love the hierarchy system, that's for sure. And they would never want to put themselves on the same eye level with everyone else. It gives them a lot of attention and respect as well. Narcissists are all about respect. From my personal observation, it's one of their most favorite and overused words and probably also one of the first red flags you'll notice. They are literally scanning their environment and make decisions whether they like a person or not based on how much respect they get from them or how much they think the other person deserves their respect. And once you disrespect a narcissist, it's basically game over for you. They think they are entitled to everybody's respect while treating other people like dirt and act like the most disrespectful person in the room. Narcissists approach people with a mindset that everybody has to earn their respect. But if you ask me, everybody should be respected with the same amount of respect right from the start. You can only lose somebody's respect by being disrespectful or messing up in other ways. But they don't think that way. Another thing narcissists are prone to doing when talking over you is to correct your grammar or pronunciation, especially if you're not speaking in your native language. As you may have already noticed, I myself have a German accent. And for the longest time, people kept making me so aware of it that I even began hating on myself and tried to get rid of it through American dialect classes. I had this roommate who was a horrible narcissist. He would not only whistle and throw around the pots and pans in the kitchen in the middle of the night to keep everybody awake, but he would also constantly correct my English, and even had the audacity to ask me if I was okay with that, and if he should keep on correcting me to do me a favor. And why did he do that? For the simple reason that he couldn't compete with me otherwise. At the time, he was going to film school, and I also happened to go to film school in the past. Not only that, I was already working in the industry and somewhat older than him. He just couldn't stand that I was more experienced and ahead of him on my journey as a filmmaker, and knew about all the stuff that he was only just learning about. Like I said, he simply wasn't able to compete with me, so he had to find that one single thing that he was better in, because English was his native language. Another way they indirectly correct your language and try to upstage you is by repeating the word you've just said incorrectly. You can literally feel the tension and arrogance in it when it happens. Or they will use a lot of fancy words they may have picked up somewhere to sound more intelligent and superior, and make you feel stupid for requiring a dictionary. Using word salad is actually quite common among narcissists to confuse you. But keep in mind that they are only good with their words, but not with their actions. I mean, look at how they've been leading their lives so far. Does this look like they've been making the right decisions? I'm speaking of the average narcissist here, of course. They aren't as smart as they sound and pretend to be. A lot of them aren't good with their money, for instance, or invest in the wrong places. Or their inconsistent and shady behavior leads them to make mistakes and lose their support system over time. They're more street smart in the sense of being very conniving, and not smart or wise to be successful at life in itself. And speaking of having gone to film school or having received a college or university degree per se, you may also experience a sort of opposite of upstaging. I've experienced this one quite often at my workplace. So as I said, I graduated from film school with a bachelor's degree in filmmaking. It's nothing that I brag about, because it doesn't really matter in our industry, but it's part of my personal history. It's something that I've done, so I cannot hide it on my resume or if somebody asks about it, right? Now, here's what happened to me many times before, and it's sure still going to happen. In my job, I work right next to the movie producers and directors. And quite often, when the crew is setting up the cameras, they try to make small talk with me and get to know me a little bit better. Many of them notice my accent and ask me things like where I'm from and what I've been doing in my home country, whether I'd been already working in the film industry in Germany, for instance. And I tell them no. I went to film school and moved to Canada right after. And now guess what happens next? If there's an insecure person in the room next to us, he or she would say something along the lines of, well, I didn't go to film school and yet I'm working here too. I mean, how do you counter that? Not only is it utterly rude to interrupt the conversation like that, but I'm simply answering somebody's question and it's part of my life story and career path. Should I just say, oh yeah, I graduated from high school and moved to Canada in my mid-20s? So what exactly happened in those 5 years after high school? Should I just omit that part? It wouldn't make sense. Do not even think of accommodating other people's insecurities and hide parts of your life, especially if they can benefit you in some way. These people can't handle or even hate the fact that you may have or had more opportunities in life or in your career. So yeah, sometimes narcissists or toxic people even try to upstage you with what they don't have. It's this awkward moment they create where they get triggered and don't want to be in your shadow because they have less credentials than you. Maybe they have always wanted to go to college or university and didn't have the means to do so. But what it comes down to, it's absolutely unnecessary to hold this against you. It's not your fault. But they feel this need to displace their anger onto you. Projection and displacement are huge with narcissists. And the way I often simply de-escalate these situations is by agreeing with them and immediately forget this awkward moment altogether. And oh my God, do we have narcissists in the entertainment industry? I chose this path because I'm a passionate filmmaker and storyteller. But if somebody had told me before how many narcissists you will run into, I would have arrived better prepared for that. I will link a previous podcast in the description below, how my workplace has actually made me aware of narcissistic abuse in the first place. It's gotten better since the Me Too movement that I'm also a supporter of. It literally saved my own life when I got involved with a malignant narcissist around the time the movement had reached its peak. But if you ask me, they've just gotten better at hiding. Narcissists have learned to adjust to this world where survivors have started to speak up against abusive behavior. And that's why we also keep on creating awareness of toxic and abusive behavior, so people notice the subtle and not so subtle signs of narcissistic abuse. Next, narcissists try to upstage you with material things or how much money they are making, or, speaking of the vulnerable, covert narcissist, how much worse of a misery they have endured compared to yours. It's pretty invalidating, I must say. They always have it worse than you. And that's how they attract their flying monkeys who will pity and support them. Quite often, narcissists don't even want their support. They just want attention in form of pity. Remember that they always think and talk in extremes. To give you an example, a paper cut to them is worse than someone else losing their finger. And ultimately, if they realize that none of that works, what I've just mentioned, when they realize they simply cannot compete with you or be better than you, what do? I personally feel a lot of secondhand embarrassment when I see it happening. They try to become you. Narcissists inherently lack their own identity, and while they say that imitation is the biggest sign of flattery, it's downward creepy. Especially when dealing with a narcissist who copies your exact style or even mannerisms. The way you look, the way you talk, walk, simply how you do everything in life or in your career. What I've also noticed narcissists are doing, I call it parroting. They repeat other people's words or catchphrases like a parrot and make them their own. It's like they don't have a way to think or speak on their own and idolize the person they try to imitate that way. It's a form of identity theft, really. You will see this a lot when they follow the preachings of the many motivational speakers out there. I won't say any names, but it's truly awkward. As we all know, narcissists tend to mirror their targets. Usually that applies to their love interests and not their competitors. But exceptions always prove the rule. And when competitors mirror you, they always have to one-up you. You buy a brand new car? Guess what? The narcissist gets a newer and better car than yours. You change your hairstyle and they change theirs too. You get a new outfit and they get a new one from a more expensive brand even. You get my point. They always try to be bigger and better than you. And they do all this mirroring and one-upping only to divert the attention away from you. What it all comes down to, narcissists are childish and highly insecure. And they can't deal with being insignificant, especially if that means you get more attention than themselves. I will link another podcast in the description below in which I talk about the narcissist's fear of being insignificant, in which I share a personal anecdote of mine. Okay, that's all I have to say about narcissists and their need to upstage you all the time. Thank you very much for listening. Stay safe and have a great day.